His hand shook a little as he tied the old knot on his worn-out work apron, hoping no one noticed. In front of him, the champion fighter stretched with the easy confidence of someone who had everything. The janitor stood in the corner, quiet, unseen, just doing his job, like every other day. But something about the way the room watched the fighter and ignored him carried a small sting he had learned to hide deep inside. None of them knew the truth about him, not yet. But in just a few minutes, the moment they all thought would be a simple fun match would open eyes in a way no one expected. Have you ever seen someone judged before they even spoke a word? Tell us in the comments. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. He started every morning the same way. The quiet walk through the empty gym halls, the soft sound of his broom moving across the floor, and the warm smell of old mats that held years of sweat, struggle, and dreams. His name was Marcus. Most people never said it out loud. To them, he was just the janitor, the man who cleaned up after everyone else. But Marcus carried his own world inside him, a world he rarely showed. He kept his head low, moved with calm steps, and worked with a quiet respect that came from years of being told to stay in his place. He had learned early that people judged fast when his skin was dark and his clothes were simple. So he stayed humble, patient, and careful with his presence. Every day he watched the young fighters train. Some were full of fire, swinging their fists with pride. Others carried fear behind their strong poses. Marcus understood both. He had once stood on a mat just like them, years ago, before life pushed him into shadows. He never talked about that time. It felt like another life, another version of him that the world no longer cared about. Still, he loved the gym. Not because anyone there noticed him, because the sound of gloves hitting pads reminded him that the world was always moving, always fighting, always trying to grow. It gave him comfort, even if he was only there to sweep the dust away. That afternoon, everything felt normal until the new champion arrived, the black belt everyone admired. People stepped aside when he walked in, cheering his name, asking for photos, laughing loudly at his jokes. The room brightened around him. Marcus kept sweeping. But the champion's eyes landed on him for a moment, a small look, almost amused. And in that moment, Marcus felt that familiar sting again. The one he had felt too many times in life. The sting of being seen, but not truly seen. Marcus, a former talented fighter now working as a janitor, is challenged to a fun match by the champion, who, along with the crowd, treats Marcus as a joke due to his job. Marcus struggles with the disrespect. Recognizing the familiar feeling of being judged and dismissed, janitor meaning less important. He had previously chosen to hide his talent and stay small because of years of quiet. Battles and opportunities lost due to racism and assumptions. The room is urging him to accept the challenge for their entertainment. But Marcus is torn between staying hidden for survival and showing the world his forgotten skill. But as he stood there, broom in hand, something shifted inside him. It was slow, like a small flame waking from a deep sleep. Maybe it was the look in the champion's eyes. Maybe it was the laughter. Or maybe it was the years of being underestimated, finally reaching a breaking point. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to prove anything. He didn't want to show them who he used to be. All he wanted was dignity, the simple respect every human deserved. The coach, still laughing, waved him over again. This time, the room grew quiet, waiting for an answer. Marcus held the broom tighter, feeling its rough handle in his hand. A simple tool, but in that moment, it felt like the last piece of the life he had accepted for too long. He took a slow breath. The smell of sweat and old mats filled his chest. His heart beat a little harder, not out of fear, but out of something he had forgotten: courage. If he stepped forward, everything would change. If he stayed back, the moment would pass. And so would the chance to be seen as more than the job he did. He slowly placed the broom against the wall. The room went silent. People leaned in, whispering. The champion smiled wide. Thinking he had already won, Marcus walked toward the mat, not to fight, but to reclaim something he had lost long ago, his own worth. Have you ever carried pain in silence, hoping one day someone would truly see you? Tell us in the comments. Marcus stepped onto the mat, every muscle in his body, remembering the movements of a lifelong hidden. The room seemed to hold its breath. The champion laughed at first, playful and confident, expecting an easy warm-up. But Marcus didn't move like someone unsure or timid. Every step, every shift of weight, told a story of strength, patience, and years of silent resilience. The first exchange was gentle, almost casual, but even that small contact carried power. The champion blinked, surprised, just for a moment, as if noticing Marcus for the first time. He had expected someone who would bow or hesitate, someone to confirm the assumptions he and everyone else had made. Instead, he faced a man who moved with precision, control, and quiet confidence that could not be ignored. Gasps echoed around the gym. The crowd that had been laughing now leaned in, eyes wide. Marcus felt a calm clarity wash over him. This was not about winning or defeating someone. This was about being seen, fully, without compromise, without the labels the world had placed on him. Every strike, every block, every step was a reminder. He existed beyond the assumptions, and the judgment and the quiet whispers of less than. The champion's smirk faded. His movements became sharper, more serious. The playful tone was gone. He was now facing a reality he had not considered, that courage and skill did not come only from titles or belts, but from life itself, from surviving. From refusing to be invisible, Marcus's heart pounded not from fear, but from a rising sense of triumph over the years he had carried unseen. The gym seemed to shrink around him. Every set of eyes watching now felt like recognition, not mockery. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly present in a world that had ignored him too many times. Then, in a sudden moment, Marcus moved with the effortless grace of someone who had fought, fallen, and risen countless times. The champion stopped, mid-motion, stunned. The silence that followed was deafening. No one clapped, no one cheered, they simply watched, stunned by the truth unfolding before them. It was not about the fight anymore. It was about the recognition of a human soul that had been underestimated for far too long. Marcus stepped back, breathing steady, eyes calm. The champion lowered his stance, a nod of respect, finally breaking through the pride. In that quiet exchange, the room understood something profound. The labels we give people are fragile, and the strength we underestimate often hides in plain sight. What would you have done if this truth was suddenly staring back at you? Tell us in the comments. Marcus walked off the mat, his chest lighter than it had been in years. The gym was quiet, but it felt full of understanding, of recognition that had been missing for too long. The champion followed, offering a small, genuine nod, the kind that didn't need words. No one laughed. No one pointed. They simply saw him, truly saw him for the first time. It was not a victory measured by points or belts. It was a victory of dignity, of a quiet courage that had waited its turn. Marcus realized that being overlooked for so long had not made him small. It had made him patient, strong, and aware of what truly mattered. His worth had never depended on others noticing him, but in that moment, it finally reflected back through their eyes. People whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads, others silent, as if they had learned something they couldn't quite put into words. The champion, once so certain of his own superiority, now carried a new understanding. He had faced someone he assumed would be easy to dismiss, and instead met a life lived fully. Quietly, courageously, and without pretense. Marcus returned to his broom after the crowd dispersed, but it felt different now. The floor he swept wasn't just dust anymore. It was a stage of his own making, a quiet proof that patience, resilience, and unseen skill could not stay hidden forever. He smiled softly to himself, knowing that respect had been earned, not demanded, and that sometimes the most powerful lessons come in silence, not noise. The story of that afternoon spread quietly, carried in glances and whispers. A reminder that human worth is never defined by labels, jobs, or appearances. One small act of courage can awaken understanding in even the most unlikely hearts. Marcus had shown that dignity, patience, and quiet strength can change minds not by shouting, by simply being seen. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Tell us in the comments. Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.